Hello, this is Bishop Manigault. Welcome to Bishop's Corner. Thank you for taking the time to stop by today. I wanted to share a word with you coming out of the book of Nehemiah, chapter 4, verses 1 through 6. This is what the word of the Lord says. But it came to pass that when Sanballat heard that we builded the wall, he was wroth and took great indignation and mocked the Jews. And he spake before his brethren and the army of Samaria and said, What do these feeble Jews? Will they fortify themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they make an end in a day? Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of the rubbish which are burnt? Now Tobiah the Ammonite was by him, and he said, Even that which they build, if a fox go up, he shall even break down their stone wall. Hear, O our God, for we are despised, and turn their reproach upon their own head, and give them for a prey in the land of captivity. And cover not their iniquity, and let not their sin be blotted out from before thee, for they have provoked thee to anger before the builders. So we built a wall, and all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof, for the people had a mind to work. I want to talk to you regarding this great work that Nehemiah was doing to rebuild the city of Jerusalem after they had been in captivity for over 70 years. Here in the book of Nehemiah, we have the account of the restoration of the city of Jerusalem. Nehemiah's people had rejected God as their Lord and King and had fallen into idolatry. This idolatry led to the eventual capture by their enemies and the destruction of their home and their lands. This once proud nation who produced such great kings as David and Solomon now had become a despised, ridiculed, and dejected nation. God called Nehemiah to lead the effort to rebuild not only the city, but the people as well. You see, in rebuilding of the city, God also was going to rebuild the tattered and ragged faith of his people. As I look about our world today, I believe that the same God that restored Israel can also restore us. Our land is also ravished by neglect, apathy, and despair. Our communities also lie waste. Many of our youth have their lives snuffed out before they can barely get their candles lit. As a people, we are mocked, ridiculed, and jeered. We are continually portrayed as hoodlums and felons, and it seems that many of us are content to succumb to this depiction. We are pictured as a people without moral compass, spiraling into the oblivion of rage and violence. Many of our young men are pictured as boys in the hood and menaces to society. Our young women are pictured as rump shakers and baby makers, who are taught to use their sexuality as a way to get fame and fortune. When I see these things, it is high time we return to God and build again upon the old foundations. And for this is a great work, and for that we will not come down. The building of the wall in Jerusalem represented safety and security to all that dwelled within the gates. It also represented a return of the Jews to the God they had forsaken so many years before. My brothers and sisters, we too must return to God if we ever expect to be free. We too must rebuild the walls that will protect and secure our loved ones. The walls in this sense are those things that make us secure and shelter us from the ravages of a sin-dominated world. We need to rebuild the walls of respect and reverence. We must once again reverence and respect God and give him the proper place in our lives. When we reverence and respect God, he will show us how to respect ourselves. And when we respect ourselves, then and only then can we know how to respect one another. In chapter 4 that I read, Sanballat asked a series of sarcastic and pessimistic questions. What do these feeble Jews? Will they fortify themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they make an end in the day? Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of the rubbish which are burnt? He calls the Jews feeble. He asks, what do they think they are doing? You can hear the contempt and the anger in his voice. He suggests that they can't really fortify themselves against their enemies. Or in other words, they are powerless and they don't even know it. Will they sacrifice? These poor, deluded religious fools, do they really think that their God can help them now? they won't last a day. With all of the trash and the rubble in the city, they can't really believe that they can clean up this place. Tobiah the Ammonite joined Sanballat in the put down. He said that even that which they build, if a fox go up, he shall even break down their stone wall. In other words, even if they got something built, even if they made some progress, it would be so poorly constructed that a fox, a relatively small animal, would be able to knock it over. You see, my brothers and sisters, what Sanballat and Tobiah did not understand was that the rebuilding of the city was not just Nehemiah's work, but was the Lord's great work. God was not only rebuilding the city, but was also rebuilding a people into a nation. In fact, God was using the rebuilding of the city as a means to reestablish his people in the land that he had promised to give them. God was preparing to deliver his people out of 70 years of captivity. You see, my brothers and sisters, God is the master of using circumstances to achieve his will. And what's so instructive about this great work is that God took a people who were nothing in the eyes of their enemies and made them a something. The God of Nehemiah is our God too. He can use the situations in which we find ourselves and work them together for our good. Indeed, all things do work together for the good of them that love God and are called according to his purpose. This is why I believe that this is a great work, and no, we will not come down. All those who endeavor to do a great work for God will face opposition. We need to understand that the enemy will not let God's work proceed without opposition. Nehemiah faced much opposition to God's work. He was ridiculed. They called him names. They told him he was too weak and powerless to really accomplish anything. There were just too many obstacles and impediments in the way. They chided the people by saying, "What are you doing? Don't you realize that even if you did something, it won't really make any difference in the final outcome? You won't last the day. And even if you did get something built, the first little thing that comes against you will crumble your work like a cookie." When Nehemiah was ridiculed for doing what God told him, he responded to God in prayer. My brothers and sisters, we too need to depend upon God when we are ridiculed. We too need to remember that this is his work, not ours. Nehemiah prayed for God to return the reproach upon the heads of them that opposed him. He prayed that God would intervene and take care of the opposition. We will not be successful without depending totally upon God. Nehemiah understood that, and we too need to understand that as well. But Nehemiah realized that when Sanballat and Tobiah put him down, they were in essence putting God down as well. And it's one thing to disrespect Nehemiah, but you don't want to disrespect Nehemiah's God. It's a bad thing to disrespect God. Nehemiah did not take their ridicule personal, and neither should we take the ridicule of our detractors personally. It does not matter how much trash we have to move. It doesn't matter how much ridicule we have to take. It does not matter how much they say the church is this and that and the third. It does not matter how they say the preachers are not right, the people are not. It doesn't matter all of the things that they say to detract us from the work should never detract us from the work. We should not take the ridicule of our detractors personally. God is in charge of this rebuilding project. In fact, if you have a problem with the Lord's work, feel free to take it up with him. This is a great work, and we will not come down. I will not succumb to ridicule. I will not come down and wallow in the mud of mire of self-pity and doubt. We will not come down to be torn by fear and anguish of who is with us and who is against us. For if the Lord be for us, who can be against us? We must stay focused on the job at hand. The Bible records at the end of that this: "So we built the wall, and the wall was joined together unto the half thereof, for the people had a mind to work." So my brothers and sisters, my call here is for us to make sure that we have a mind to work, to do the will of the God that has called us. We should not let ridicule deter us from doing what God tells us to do, for this is a great work, and we will not come down. The work that we have been called to do, my brothers and sisters, is to take the gospel of Jesus Christ to the world. We are to be light and we are to be salt. We ought to be ready, willing, and able to give an answer to all who ask the reason of the hope that is within us. We must be those who stand up for the truth no matter what or who or what does not want to hear it. We are God's people, and we must live the light of the truth in a world full of darkness. That is the work that God has commissioned each and every one of his servants to do. This is a great work, and we will not come down. So there will be many obstacles in the way of completing this great work. What ridicule could not do, fear could easily do. Make no mistake about it, this work will cost the risking of our lives and the risking of our fortunes and our reputations. This work will require us to go in a different direction than we planned. This work will require us to spend our time in a different manner than we thought. Jesus said that those who are willing to lose their life for his sake will gain their life, and those who seek to save their lives will lose it. My brothers and sisters, we must be willing to give our all for the work. It may not take our all, but we need to be willing to give it if necessary. Why? Because this is a great work, and we will not come down. Well, it looks like my time is about up for now, but I do thank you for yours. So until next time, may God bless you and heaven smile upon you is my prayer. Bye-bye.